Good morning, children. Let us discuss the unsolved questions in your textbook. We have discussed the fill in the blanks and true or false. Now, multiple choice questions. So, dash is a named collection of data items which represent a complete unit of information. So, collection of data items is called a record. So, collection of data items is called a record. So, the correct answer is record. Then, dash is named collection of all occurrence of a given type of logical record. So, collection of all occurrence of a given type of logical record is called, that is collection of all records is called a relation or a table. Then the number of attributes in a relation determines that is the number of attributes means the number of columns. So number of columns in a relation is called, so I have told you column is C and row is row R. Then number of columns is given as degree and number of row is given as cardinality, that is C is not C. This is a shortcut to remember. This C is not for C, that is for column it is not cardinality, it is degree, and for row it is cardinality. So the number of rows in a relation, number of attributes in a relation determine, number of attributes means number of columns is called degree. Then the rows of a relation are generally referred to as, rows are also called tuples or records. So the answer is tuple. Then the number of tuples in a relation is called, number of tuples means number of rows or number of records in a relation is called cardinality. Then dash is a set of one or more attributes that can uniquely identify tuples within a relation. So we have studied one or more attributes that can uniquely identify a tuple is called the primary key. Primary key always uniquely identify a tuple. That is, all the records can be uniquely identified by the help of primary key. That is, you students can be uniquely identified by your roll number, or we can use admission number also to uniquely identify. Then a candidate key that is not the primary key is called, a candidate key that is not the primary key is called a alternate key. Then a dash is a non-key attribute whose value is derived from the primary key of another table. So we know we are using the primary key of some other table. So they are the foreign keys in the current table. Then which of the following data models is suitable for many one to many relationship? So we have studied for one to many relationship we can use hierarchical data model. For one to many relationship we can use hierarchical data model. That is, there will be only a single parent and it can have many children. Then which data model uses tables? So we know our relational data model uses tables, hence The tables are called relations. Next is solved questions. So what is a database management system? So database management is a software with the help of which we can access a database. So database management is managed by a software package known as database management system. So database management system manages the database. Then list all possible attributes for a student entity. So suppose we are creating a table student, then what all can be the column names of that table? That is this question. List all possible attributes for a student entity. So if we are creating a table student, what all columns can be there in that table? So one column will be the roll number to uniquely identify that child. Then the other column will be the name, then address, then the phone number, then the date of birth of the child. Then if we are using that table for storing the marks, then we can use additional column marks also. So there are many other columns like admission number, many other columns can also be added that can be related to a student. Then if R1 is a relation with 5 rows, R1 is a relation, that is R1 is a table with 5 rows, and R2 is a relation with 3 rows, that is R2 is a table with 3 rows. How many rows will be with the Cartesian product of R1 and R2? So Cartesian product means combining all the combinations of R1 and R2. It is a product of R1 and R2. So when we do Cartesian product, the rows can be, number of rows in the new table will be the number of rows in R1 into number of rows in R2. That is 5 into 3. That is 15 rows will be there in the Cartesian product of R1 and R2. 15 rows will be there in the Cartesian product of R1 and R2. And in case of columns, there will be 5, that is number of columns in R1 plus number of columns in R2. So this Cartesian product you will study in the next chapter in detail. In this chapter it is not there. Then what is a relation? What are the difference between a tuple and an attribute? So we know in a relational database the tables are called relation. So a relation is like a table in which data is arranged in the form of rows and columns. So the rows of that table are called tuples and the columns of that table are called attributes. Then what is a data type? So what is a data type? So in a column we store a particular type of data. So in a roll number column we store data of integer type, and in the name column we store the data of name type. So the attribute, that is in a particular column a particular data can be stored. That is, it is the type of the data that can be stored in a particular column. So attribute is the type of the data that can be stored in a particular column. So the attribute of a field that determines the kind of data the field can contain is called data type. The attribute of a field that determines the kind of the data that can contain is called the data type. That is the type of the data that can be stored in that particular column, that is in the particular attribute of a particular field. Then what is a relation? A relation is a two-dimensional table consisting of rows and columns, that is records and attributes respectively. What do you understand by degree and cardinality of a table? So degree means number of columns and cardinality means number of rows. So degree means number of columns, cardinality means number of rows. Then what is a field? Field is a column on a data sheet and defines a data type of a set of values in a table. So each column is called a field. Each column name is called a field. What is an entity? Suppose an entity is a person, object, concept about which you want to store information. Suppose in our school, if we are storing information about student, then student is an entity. If we are storing information about teachers, then teacher is an entity. If we are storing information about a product in a shop, if we are storing information about a product like toothpaste, then that toothpaste is an entity. So about what we are storing, if we are storing information, then that is called an entity. Some of the examples of entities include student, teachers, employee, department, project. So any table that we create is called the name of that table is called an entity. That is, we are storing the details of that particular entity. The next is, what do you understand by primary key and candidate key? So I told for an election, if two people are there for the election, and the person who wins the election becomes the primary key, and the person who loses the election will become the alternate key, and both the person who are there for election are the candidates. So what is a primary key? A primary key means set of attributes which is used to identify a tuple uniquely. So an attribute, a column or a combination of columns, an attribute or a set of attributes which can uniquely identify a tuple or uniquely identify a row. If table has more than one such attribute which identifies a tuple uniquely, then all such attributes are known as candidate keys. Then what do you understand by the term primary key and degree of relation database? So primary key we have discussed, it is a set of columns or a single column which can uniquely identify a particular set of row, and degree is number of columns. Number of columns in a table is called degree, and number of rows is called cardinality. Then what is a record? So record is an arrow on a data sheet and is a set of values defined by fields. So every row in the table is in the relation is a record. Every row in a table is called record or tuple. So what do you mean by data redundancy? Data redundancy, I told, when we store same data in different places, then what happened? Duplicate data arises, that is same copy exists in different places. So such existence of duplicate data is called data redundancy. That is, data redundancy means duplication of data. So duplicate data is stored at different locations, which violates the integrity of the database and causes wastage of storage space. If same data is being stored in different locations, then we are wasting the memory space. Then next question, how does database management system ensure data security and privacy? So a database management system ensures data security and privacy by providing authorized access privileges only to the authorized person. That is, only authorized person can access the database. It has certain commands like grant and revoke, which gives permission to the authorized person of an organization to get access to the sensitive data. So it has commands like grant and revoke. These two commands give permission to a particular person related to sensitive data, like our banking details, our account number, our password. Everything is stored in a database. They are sensitive informations, and these information should be granted only to the authorized person. No one else other than the owner of that username and password can have access to that. Nobody else should be given the access. So such information are protected in the database. Then what do you mean by data security? Data security refers to protection of data against accidental or intentional disclosure to unauthorized person or unauthorized modification or destruction. So what is data security? Data security refers to the protection of data. It is the protection of data against accidental, that is occurring unknowingly, or intentional disclosure of unauthorized persons or unauthorized modification or destruction. If any data is disclosed to unauthorized person, or any unauthorized person modifies the content of the database, so these are all to be protected. So this protection of such things are called data security. Then what is data integrity? So data integrity refers to maintaining and assuring the accuracy and consistency of data over its entire life cycle. So we told what is data redundancy, that is occurrence of the same data in different places. So whenever we change one data in one computer, when we modify the data, then what happens? The other data, the duplicate data which is stored in other computers get unmodified. So what happens? The data integrity is lost. That is, the updated data is in this computer and this other two computers have the old version of the data. So what happens? The integrity of the data is lost. So what is data integrity? Data integrity refers to maintaining and assuring the accuracy and consistency over its entire lifetime. That is, we should have data stored in only one location. Data redundancy should not be there. So then only we can provide data integrity. Then what do you mean by relational database? So we know there are three types of database: network, hierarchical and relational. A database in which data is stored in the form of tables is called relational database, and it is collection of data items organized as a set of tables from which data can be retrieved easily and efficiently. Then write any two advantages of using database. So what is the main advantage we have discussed? It provides security to the data. Then a database is used to store information in a tabular form. So for further future purpose, so that data can be used at any time. So our data is available at any time. Then its storage and retrieval is also faster and convenient. Then another advantage is it provides security and it avoids data redundancy. That is, in one place only the data is stored, unlike in other computers, other file storage systems, data is stored in different places, but in a database data is stored in a single location. So it provides data integrity and data redundancy is not there. So what is the difference between rows and columns in a table? Rows are called records, columns are called fields. Then a row stores complete information of a record, whereas a column stores only similar data values for a number of records. So in a single column all the data will be of same data type, but in a row different data types will be there. Okay, thank you children. For today only this much.